Welcome to More Than It Seems, Stories Beyond the Cardboard, a series where one piece of cardboard can create the ultimate link to baseball history. Behind every photo and stat line lies something richer: resilience, drama, joy, heartbreak. Untold stories that go far beyond the box score. This isn't just about collecting the cards, it's about forming a lasting connection. I'm John, and I'm glad you're here. If you tuned into the first episode of More Than It Seems, you know this podcast is not simply about stats and the condition of a simple piece of cardboard. We dive into the people behind the cards, their journeys, the moments that shape them, and sometimes the heartbreaks that history nearly forgets. Today's story is one of those. We turn our attention to a pitcher named Dave Shotkoski, a man who endured a brief baseball career marked by improbable misfortune. While his life was defined by persistence on the ball field, it tragically ended in violence during what should have been a moment for him to seize a new opportunity in spring training. As his 1991 line drive minor league baseball card suggests from the image, Dave was focused and determined, dead set on a chance to succeed at the highest level. But it was this pursuit of the ultimate prize that ultimately put him in harm's way. Let's rewind to the beginning. David Terrence Shotkoski grew up in the shadows of Chicago, pitching for Barrington High School. He was a kid who loved baseball and who wasn't afraid of hard work. While never the biggest or the flashiest prospect, he had a good arm and a stronger work ethic. As a 6'3", 175-pound righty, he stood out, showing control, a bulldog mentality, and enough velocity to keep scouts interested. It was this ability that led the Atlanta Braves to select him in the fourth round of the 1985 Major League Baseball draft, the second pick ever out of Kishwaukee College. From there, his professional journey began, and like a lot of players with high hopes in that era, it was an absolute grind. Picture the minor leagues in the 1980s. Long, arduous bus rides, minuscule locker rooms, and barely enough meal money to survive. This was Dave's world. He spent his first season as a professional with the Pulaski Braves in Virginia before going on to play in the Oakland Athletics organization from 1987 through 1989, pitching for teams in places like Modesto, Medford, Huntsville, and Tacoma. Still, Dave held his own. He wasn't overpowering, but he knew how to pitch. He wasn't climbing prospect lists, but he was reliable and coachable. One of those players teammates always respected. One of those guys coaches trusted to give you a solid 5 or 6 innings. After a few years bouncing between various levels of the minors, he stepped away from American baseball in 1990 to pitch in Italy. And in 1991, he returned to the States to continue to chase that big league dream that never quite felt out of reach. Pitching for the California Angels AA affiliate in Midland, he finished the season 5-11 with a 4.28 ERA. But he was released by the Angels shortly thereafter. With his major league hopes left in limbo, Dave's minor league record finished at 18-24 with a 5.07 ERA. But that's nothing to scoff at. The point is that Dave Shotkoski spent a decade grinding in the minors, fighting for a roster spot, living out of suitcases, and chasing a dream. That's more than most of us can say. But here's where the story takes a turn. After 3 years completely out of professional baseball, working as a production supervisor at a Chicago Coca-Cola plant and living in North Aurora, Illinois, Shotkoski was presented with an opening and a new opportunity to play alongside replacement players at the Atlanta Braves West Palm Beach complex. See, 1995 was a strange year for baseball. The players' strike still loomed large. The cancellation of the 1994 season and eventually the World Series spilled over into the spring. Both players and owners were at odds. As spring training commenced, owners were preparing to use replacement players for the start of the regular season. Dave was hoping to make a comeback in some capacity, even as a replacement, if that's what it took. Not to mention, he had the opportunity to train alongside legendary Braves coach Bobby Cox and pitching guru Leo Mazzoni. He was 30 years old with a wife and an 8-month-old daughter, still chasing that big league castle in the sky, still believing he had something left in the tank and a shot at making the majors and potentially earning the $115,000 salary that came with making the opening day roster. But life, as is in baseball, can be unforgiving. On March 24th, 1995, Dave went out for a walk near his team's hotel in West Palm Beach, Florida. Nothing out of the ordinary, just a guy taking a stroll. But Dave never came back. When he didn't return, teammates grew concerned. The next day, according to the Tampa Bay Times, his body was discovered on the sidewalk in front of an office high-rise near the team hotel. He had been shot to death in a botched robbery attempt. At some time before 6:40 p.m., just 500 yards from the hotel, an individual rode up to Shotkoski on a yellow bicycle, pulled out a .22 caliber revolver, and aimed it at him. 3 resonating shots rang out. The perp fled on his bike. Shotkoski ran roughly 100 feet before collapsing on the sidewalk. He was left for dead. After Braves general manager John Schuerholz announced the team was offering $5,000 for information leading to an arrest, teammates stepped in to find an answer. Terry Blocker, a longtime baseball player who played briefly with the Mets and the Braves, used his local connections to find answers in the hardened neighborhood adjacent to the hotel. On the strength of his intel, the man responsible, Neil Douglas Evans, was eventually caught 2 days later. He was convicted in 1997 and sentenced to 27 years in prison for the death of Dave Shotkoski. In 2012, however, he was released after serving only roughly 16 years. For everyone involved, it was a hard lesson and a devastating snapshot of the American legal system. See, justice doesn't bring someone back. Justice doesn't always prevail, and justice most certainly cannot undo the pain associated with the loss of an innocent life. Baseball lost one of its own that night. Not a superstar, not a Cy Young Award winner, but a man who loved the game. A man who fought for every opportunity he got. While teammates were left devastated, the strike was soon settled. Replacement players were sent home, and the regulars returned. Shotkoski was soon forgotten. The Braves, led by team president Stan Kasten, offered the family a $10,000 insurance policy, but because of the hardline union stance, the team did not do much else beyond that. It was a devastating end to a tragic affair. Because anyone who's ever played this game, at any level, knows what kind of heart it takes to spend more than a decade chasing the dream. See, that's what Dave did. He's not on a Topps rookie card, he's not featured in highlight reels, but his story matters. In many ways, Dave Shotkoski represents all the players who gave everything to baseball but didn't get the spotlight. The guys whose stories live on through teammates, family, and through platforms like this. So the next time you come across his name, whether it's in a box of commons or buried in the back of a minor league team yearbook, don't skip past it. Remember him. Remember the heart, the hustle, the sacrifice. And remember that sometimes the most meaningful stories in this sport aren't written on the field. They're written in the lives behind it. This has been More Than It Seems, Stories Beyond the Cardboard. I'm John, and thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video, leave a comment, and be sure to subscribe. And as always, remember, the numbers on the back of the card never tell the full story. It's always more than it seems.